The Geek and the Scribe. The Geek and the Scribe is a podcast hosted by myself, Jamara, and my sister Shayna, critiquing pop culture, fandom, literature, arts, media. Our blackness is the lens through which we see the world, and our gender is how we experience it. This is the manifesto of two sisters, unapologetically black women interested in discussing, critiquing, celebrating culture in a world that prefers us to remain silent. So welcome to another episode. Hi, Shayna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a busy week in the topics of gender,
My God, has it been?
race, and identity. So we have a lot to talk about today. I'm excited.
Yay!
All right, so let's hop right in. You want to kick us off? What do you have on your plate?
Okay, on my plate. First up, I have the essentially what this is the effect of Islamophobia going on in our country right now. And Southwest Airlines, dude, seems to have a problem with being Arab while flying, because they have no less than 3 incidences this year already of ejecting passengers because of their appearance and what language they speak. And probably the most one of the more recent ones that just happened earlier this month is a college student, 26 years old, of Arab descent. He has family from Baghdad. He's currently here attending the University of California, and I do believe he's about to file suit against Southwest Airlines for what he feels is an unfair ejection from his flight.
Okay, what happened?
Well, seems what happened is that he boarded a flight home. Let's see. Okay, he was taken off a flight from Los Angeles International Airport to Oakland on April 6th. There's the date. He had recently gone to a conference where he got to meet like really important government officials, like a UN secretary, and it was a really big deal for him because I guess it falls into his line of study in school. Apparently, his uncle is also like an academic. He's like, I do believe he's like political science. Yeah, I think that's what it says. Political science. And so he was talking to his uncle about it once he boarded the plane.
Okay.
Another passenger heard him speaking in his native tongue because from Baghdad was speaking in Arabic on the plane.
Okay.
Passenger was alarmed by this when he gave essentially a sign-off, like a goodbye greeting, that translates basically to God willing. And once this passenger heard this, she immediately ran to the staff of the plane, saying that he was making threatening remarks in Arabic, and there was also saying that there was people saying that he made jihadist type comments. Now,
wait. I mean, did anyone speak Arabic?
No, that's the problem. None of the people on the plane who are like the original woman who complained, nor the flight staff that I guess she complained directly to, apparently spoke Arabic. They did get somebody when he was removed off the plane who did speak Arabic, and he was speaking Arabic to him, but apparently he spoke a different dialect, so they couldn't really understand each other. When he ended up actually having to ask the man to speak to him in English. He's like, what are you saying? And from then on, things just kind of got worse for him. First, he thought something was wrong. First, he himself has said that he was both alarmed and frightened. At first, he thought the passenger was upset that he was talking too loudly. And when he was asked to leave the plane, he was quite confused. Once off the plane, a Southwest employee who was trying to speak to him in Arabic spoke to him and essentially told him that what he did was too dangerous. Like, what the heck are you doing talking Arabic on the plane? Like, you forget where you are.
Dangerous? Like, is that is that an actual? I mean, I guess what's the problem? I mean, I just feel like I'm gonna
okay. You know what?
and say what the is going on.
But it gets deeper. Why? It gets deeper because even after that, not only is he detained by police, he's also questioned by the FBI.
Oh, great.
And Southwest refused to fly him home.
I feel like at any point, though, in there, someone could have intervened and said, wait a minute, like, perhaps this isn't a case of, like, terrorism. Maybe he's, like, I feel like once they got the translation of what he was talking about, it shouldn't have kept escalating.
It shouldn't have, but essentially he was blamed for being Arabic. Like and the woman, whoever she was, apparently she felt threatened by him speaking Arabic. And I understand that we live in a climate where the fear of terrorism is really high, but I do not think it should condone the profiling of people and the mistreatment of people blatantly based on their either ethnic background or their religion. I mean, I think the best quote I can reference here would be a quote from Fox News, which is really terrible, but which essentially said, which one of their news anchors essentially, well, at least one of their correspondents essentially says, he was like, well, not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims.
What?
And it's like, yeah.
I mean,
and that's kind of the issue, that there are so many people feeding into this rhetoric, and then we have politicians like, you know, Trump and them saying we have to watch the Muslim community, we have to close our borders to them. Like, come on, these are, and like, again, a lot of these people, like this guy in particular, he's a student. He's here for an education, and a lot of people come here from like the Middle East, South Asia, come here to go to utilize our very impressive collegiate system, and they come here to get treated this way, and it's just mind-boggling that you would treat anybody that way, that you would assume somebody's up to no good just because of who they are, you know?
I guess for me, the question is, I guess I get really nervous to think about, like, how are we so afraid of each other, and what does fear have, like, the way fear drives paranoia and anxiety when it comes to the other and making someone else the other. That's the part that's really scary.
But that's exactly what it is. There is,
at any point, that example could be turned into anything. It could be like, oh my gosh, there are two people drinking orange juice, and now they're, you know what I mean? Like, it could, the language, which obviously is a ridiculous example, but I just feel like that could be, we could insert anything there, and we can justify our fear of each other.
Yeah, like it's very clear, like an us versus them, and the only problem is that unless you are white, male, and Christian, you are not us. We're not us. Like, we're them. Like, they're like everybody but the Christian white majority, essentially, as far as the racial climate in this country has been turning. They're the us, and all the rest of us are on the outside, and we're the villains. And it's like, blacks are the villains, Muslims are the villains, Jews are the villains. Like, everybody, like, people never talk about it. Jews are still #1 in hate crimes in this country. Muslims, it's on the rise every day. There's more hate crimes against them, but we're worried about our safety against them. Like, come on.
I don't know. Yeah, it's scary. I guess, what's your kind of like 5-10 second like wrap up, or things to think about, or questions we should be asking ourselves this week as we think about who we are in relationship to others?
Like, the truth of the matter, my thing is that I think we all just kind of need to realize that we're all part of this country. We all live here, and we all kind of have to coexist. And us hating each other or fearing each other is not the kind of environment that's going to foster any real progress between people in this country, and it's not going to heal the many, many risks that are developing because of it.
Yeah, of course. And of course that extends to where it's it's not just here in the United States. We're a global community.
Yeah, like it's not just and as much as we talk about race, the truth of the matter is, on a genetic level, race doesn't really exist,
Right.
and it's a invention of man. So the more we need to like accept that fact that at the end of the day, we're all just people.
Right.
And we all have hopes, dreams. We all have things that we're working for and working towards in life. And to think that just because someone is part of a certain group that makes them bad, like, is that really? And it's funny, again, how this only applies to anyone but the white majority, especially in this country, just because you never hear anybody painting all whites with one brush, like, because it's not like you look at organizations like the Klan or the Aryan Nation and say, oh, well, all white people are like that. But it's so easy for them to, it's so easy for like media and other people to do that to every other group.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It's not fair.
Yeah.
And nobody should, and like, and nobody should have their dignity taken away. Like, that, I think one thing that we're all entitled to is our dignity. And to take someone's dignity like that is just preposterous.
Agreed. We are pro dignity on the Geek and the Scribe. And I think another thing that we won't have time to tackle tonight is the way that issues or interactions with the police and law enforcement escalate, because they escalate in ways, and there's, once you're in a situation with law enforcement and it begins to escalate, there essentially is no way to de-escalate it.
Yeah, because
escalate it. You know what I mean? And so that's something we need to think about.
Yeah, that's actually what I got asked today about the newspaper. I actually got asked that today at the bus station, like asking me about do I think police should wear body cams, and I was like, should they have to? No. But is it a good measure of faith in the community to do it? Yes. Because it's such a fractured relationship. Because there is unpleasant feelings on both sides.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So unfortunately, somebody has to make a concession somewhere.
Right. Oh boy. Okay. So I just want to say welcome again to the Geek The Scribe. We're a podcast discussing popular culture, and media through the lenses of race, gender, and identity, for those who are just joining us or who are listening in on the podcast. So another thing, if you want to talk about identity and personal space this week, there's been a ton in the news about North Carolina and bathroom laws. And just as, yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Breathe deeply. We're going to get I promise. So as a measure of context, North Carolina became the first U.S. state to require transgender people to use restrooms in public buildings and schools that match the sex on their birth certificate rather than their gender identity. So this has been essentially a shitstorm all over the internet and all over the media for maybe last week or two, maybe longer. And so I think we both were talking about our own personal moments where we've had to think about or conversations that forced us to think about bathroom space as public domain, kind of the personal versus the private space, gender and bodies. So I know for me, I went to undergrad at the New School for Public Engagement, which is in New York City. And while I was there, the school definitely was in this transition to create gender neutral bathrooms all over campus. And so meaning that there were bathrooms where essentially anyone of any gender identity could use those bathrooms. And so they converted what were the women's bathrooms into gender neutral spaces. All the ones I used seem to be women's bathrooms converted because they still had the stalls. You know, it wasn't like the kind of traditional men's room that just has like one stall and then like all urinals. It was generally because I did use them and I did use the restroom, while someone else who may have been of a different gender identity also used. Someone who had similar parts or different parts than me we all use the bathroom together. Like not
Okay.
together, but at the
at the same time, in the same place.
And for me, so it was really interesting to be on campus during this transition because there was like lots of talk about it, and then there was a plan, and then next thing you know, there were gender neutral bathrooms. And so it was for the first time I really had to think about what the bath, like we're all potty trained, right? Yay.
Yeah,
Thank we're all potty trained. So when we're in public places, we have to relieve ourselves. And so we do the right thing. We don't like pee in our pants. We go to a restroom and we're human, so we have to take care of our, our needs and wipe and change pads or whatever we need to.
Yeah, whatever. Personal.
I hadn't really confronted it before then, and obviously that was a few years ago. So I will confess, I was definitely a little nervous. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, no, I hear you great.
I was nervous. Because I had never thought about it before. I am I guess cisgendered, if we're gonna get into the language. Like I have a vagina and I have breasts, and this is the body that I was born in, and this is the body that I've kept and feel most comfortable in. So I just never had to think about that moment of choosing. I do remember in the 4th grade I went into the boys' room by accident, but that was by accident. So I did it
on purpose.
I just was my first day and I got lost. So
when I did it on purpose. But
I'll confess, I was a little nervous because I had never used the bathroom at the same time as someone who perhaps had a different body than me. It's always just been assumed that everyone in there had the same parts,
And though, unbeknownst to you, you might have been in the bathroom with someone. Yeah, it was never conscious.
No, and so I was definitely a little nervous. But then I was kind of like, okay, Jamara, you know who you are. This is your campus. This is a safe space. And so I did start using the gender neutral bathrooms. And then once I started doing it, I realized that it wasn't a big fucking deal at all. Because when you go to the bathroom, I mean, sometimes you might have a conversation in there, you might run into someone but for the most part, if you have to pee, you are going to the bathroom, and then you are leaving the bathroom. This isn't like a 9th grade high school where people are hanging out in the bathroom.
Yeah, you're going, you're doing your business, and you're leaving. I've never had an incident in the bathroom where somebody bothered me in the bathroom, or the biggest thing I'd ever have to worry about in the bathroom is somebody in the stall next to me not having toilet paper. That's the worst thing that could have happened.
Right. I'm glad I had that experience that forced me to think about it and forced me to experience it, because then after I left the new school, it was almost odd for me not to see gender neutral bathrooms. And if you think about when you're shopping these days, most of the dressing rooms and retail stores are gender neutral. So when you
I never thought about that.
Yeah, when you go to H&M or the Gap, it's just one big thing. And there are men back there, there are women, it's children. And so I just,
honestly, I didn't even know that because, as we know, listeners, you don't know, but me and my sister know, I used to work retail, and we didn't at the time have gender neutral changing rooms. They were still segregated as far as gender was concerned, but not to say I never saw a transgender go in the dressing room. I just never said anything because I didn't want to blow up their spot.
None of your business, right. So I guess I kind of hope that my experience is the experience that happens in larger society, where people who are nervous will just be open enough to realize that their nervousness is based on their own baggage and not necessarily
anything that has to do with them.
Danger. And I think that like many things, once we get used to it, I hope that in 10 years we look back and we're like, okay, that was a big waste of our energy.
Yeah, beyond a waste of time.
I'm sure people weren't used to women voting or Black people using the same water fountain, but eventually
get used to
it. Times change. So
yeah, my bigger issue, the bigger overarching issue with the whole thing is that these laws in general just seem like they're targeting people in the transgender community.
They are.
And I don't like, and that's what bugs me, the fact that that's okay to target a group of people that's already well targeted. Like the incarceration rate for transgender blacks is so much higher than for just regular for just people who stick with their born gender. Like, as it is, blacks have a higher incidence of incarceration as it is. We may be 10% of the population, but we're 80% of the prison system. But transgenders, it's 46%. Like 46% of all of them will at some point be arrested for some reason. Like, that has nothing to do with nothing. Like, nothing. And it's sad that they're, like, just because, you know, they're different, like, just because their outsides didn't match their insides and they endeavored to change that. I mean, I gotta say, it was actually gender displacement was actually one of the really early things that got me interested in psychology when I was younger, because I thought it was so amazing that your brain could not identify with the body it was in. I was like, wow, that just shows how complex our consciousness is, and how complex we are as people, that we cannot feel. And it's funny because transgender are people who didn't feel like they were the gender they were born in have always existed. This isn't new. Like, history will tell us like Native Americans had people that they called two souls, or two spirits, and they were shamans and actually had high position in the community. I actually read not too long ago, and I'm going to cite a website right now called rejectedprincess.com. They have a really cool story about one particular such person, and who actually fought in, like, the American Indian Wars and stuff like that. Like, this person was, like, badass, and because of the encroachment of colonialism and the fact that they didn't believe in such things, it affected the way the Native American community saw them. And eventually that whole kind of subculture within the culture kind of died off, because now, you know, gays and transgender and stuff in the Indian and the Native American culture are now treated badly, or at least not accepted the way they once were. And it's sad, because this was such a part of them, and these people were important. So it's like not being comfortable in the skin you're in. Like, I think anybody can sympathize with that. I think we've all had those moments where we just didn't feel like we were, you know? So it's like, I don't want to judge anybody, but the thought process that if I go in the bathroom with my daughter, a transgender woman's going to pop out the stall and want to, like, sexually assault me or my child, like, that's stupid. Because more likely or not, it's more likely that transgender person will get attacked if you force them to go to a male's restroom. That's really the truth of it. That the ugly thing is the people who are claiming they're afraid are the people who are more likely to do the attacking.
Yeah. All right, we have to switch gears, but yes. So, I mean, I don't know. We're pro two-spirit people, and for everyone who feels like perhaps they're not two-spirited, well, you're not very cool. And then to, like, deal with your own baggage around the domestic and public spaces and your body, and the truth is that we actually don't have to be afraid of not only our own bodies but the bodies of others who may or may not look or feel or identify the way we do.
We all just people.
It's a big deal. Like, let's just all poop, like, in the
like, no, like, because trust me, I'm not bothering you while you poop, and you don't have to bother me while I do it. Like,
exactly. It's all good.
I don't have many interactions in the bathroom, and I can say most people probably don't.
I mean, it's not. Yeah,
it's not a social place.
Yeah, it's all poop together. So this, speaking of pooping together, no, I don't. That's not a segue.
Or you just have to talk about some shit. Yeah, is that where you're going with it?
Speaking of other shit, This week, and we have a full lineup, so we have to get cracking.
Go.
This week, so we were on. You and I talk a lot on Facebook Messenger, and then yesterday I looked over at what was trending on Facebook, and I saw this link, and it said something like Lil Kim something something something, and then I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I clicked the link.
Oh, are you gonna show the picture? You gotta show the picture.
I am gonna. So for our live viewers, we have screen share, so I get to share it, and then for our podcast listeners, we'll post the links in the show notes. So I go to click the link, right? Because that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wish
somebody had warned you.
A live stream, because I was so confused. And when I say confused, I'm not just being dramatic, like, oh my God, I'm confused. I mean,
legitimately, I'm confused as well.
I legitimately didn't. I was like, oh, where's? So I'm looking at this photo, right? And I'm screen sharing with you, and I was like, oh, where's Lil Kim? And
you're like, oh, wait.
But look, where is she? Because I don't understand why this link is associated with her. So anyway, the internet's been going crazy over the last day or so, because just really lots of conversation going on about whether or not she bleaches her skin. It's very clear from images online that she has augmented herself over time. And her current image is very far from where she started as, this Black girl from Bed-Stuy.
Yes.
So
deeply distant.
Yeah. I mean,
oh man, I don't
know. I don't even know where to start.
I almost want to cry for her. Part of me feels like something must have gone terribly, terribly wrong with this poor woman, that this is where she ended up. This isn't just want to change a couple things. I've talked about changing a couple things, but this is a complete rearranging of your face. And
let's start slow, because it's a lot to take on. But I mean, we just came out of a segment about kind of changing your body and transgender.
Yes.
And like,
transgenders don't even change their faces that drastically.
I'm guessing, where does this fall in line in terms of current identity and race? When clearly someone, whether Lil Kim or otherwise, is going through very extreme measures to distance herself or correct her image from what she was naturally born with. Yeah. I mean, in some respect, I'm not really that mad at her. I guess I'm more shocked because I hadn't seen her in a while. I know she just had. Didn't she have a son? She had a baby now.
Yeah, she did have a baby.
And then kind of before that, we saw her in her online feud with Nicki Minaj.
And other people too.
Yeah, and before that though, she had been relatively quiet. And so
she was in jail for 2 years.
Right, she was in jail for a while. Okay. So anyway, but the story of Lil Kim, it pops up every once in a while, and I guess I wonder what's going on there.
It's just when you see people and this isn't, and I'm not talking about somebody who has because I feel like this doesn't even compute in the same league as transgender. These are people who don't feel comfortable in their gender, and they endeavor to become a different gender. And for the most part, they don't change their features very much. They may, a man may try to feminize his features as he transitions into a woman. For the most part, he leaves them as is. And a woman may try to be more masculine, but for the most part, once she's making that transition, when she becomes he, for the most part, their basic face structure is the same. But this is complete. She's changed her complete structure of her face. And when you do something that extreme, it makes me think that you didn't not just that you didn't like how you look, but you hated how you look. And when you hate how you look, it means on some level, you may not like you. And that's what troubles me. That is this a symptom of her not liking herself, not loving herself? And if that's it, then that's sad.
So one, did you think of Michael Jackson when you saw that photo?
A little bit.
Okay, I
But
wasn't.
not before I thought of that mask from Vanilla
And
Sky. I
then,
won't lie. Um,
so you actually looked a little bit deeper onto Twitter. What happened with the Twitter conversation? I know it got really ugly.
it got ugly there for a minute. Of course there's talks of racism. First, when it started with like, well, poor Kim, what's wrong with her that she would do this to herself? I gotta say that from what I saw, and I didn't go real deep, but from what I saw, that there wasn't any real direct hate towards her. There were people like, she's been changing the way she's looked for years, and that's true. But then there were people who honestly seemed to feel sorry for her, and then the vitriol that came later, not so much directed at her, but directing what they felt like society issues that caused someone like her to do this. And first, it was comments on a racist society, essentially, that hates black women. And then, shortly after that, it turned into black men hate black women. And I understand why they got there.
Why did they get there? Because I don't understand why they had to go there. I mean, was it because I saw one tweet that said something like, well, her like Biggie Smalls like abused her, and like all those men she was around in the rap game early on, and plus in her personal life just treated her so badly that as a result,
and that could be true. Well, yeah, like there is no. I don't think that anybody is under. I don't know. I think everybody's kind of aware of her relationship with Big Pun. Well, not Big Pun, sorry. Notorious B.I.G. We're aware that they were together for a really long time. And I don't know.
I don't know. So, I mean, what is this? Let's...
Now, he may have treated her badly. He may have screwed her over. And it was obvious that, from what people have said over the years, that they were still together when he married Faith Evans. And I'm sure that was a huge slap in the face. And Faith Evans was the exact opposite of what Kim looked like. And it's funny because shortly thereafter was around the time she turned her hair blonde.
Okay.
Whether that was coincidental or not.
I guess. But and
she was. And she
I don't want to go now.
Yeah, like, and I don't blame. I wouldn't say blaming all black men. I would say that interaction with that one man may have not been a good one for her. Like, in the long run, it may have left scars for her. Perhaps. Okay. But it can't be the only thing. It couldn't have been the only thing.
But Michael Jackson was not a black woman
No, but he was a person who seemed to not like what he looked like. And it was really apparent. And he had some issues. Like, he went from this really cute kid, and his teen years were a little weird, and he had the really terrible acne, which now has been later attributed to vitiligo. And, you know, his nose spread a lot, and he was really self-conscious of the way he looked, and that's why he said, but to be fair, almost every Jackson had a nose job. None of them seemed to like that nose they got from Joe.
Okay, so, I mean, why is this even important? I guess that's because I just feel like there's so many layers to it, but why is this even important? Why is surgery important for me as a woman of color? Why? Like, why? Why is it important?
Here's the thing. I think it is because, well, the one thing that people raised was that, like, they said black men, but they also said society in general, especially in this country, doesn't value black women. And
yes, yes.
Well, and it's true. We are not valued in a way that would be fair to us. Yes, there are. I won't lie to say there aren't some problems between black men and black women in some respects, but it would be a hard thing to say that all black men are responsible for such things. I know plenty of black men who are completely respectful and kind. Like, I have plenty of male friends who give me nothing but respect, and that I feel that I deserve. So it's not all, but there is, I won't say there hasn't been a message in our society for a really long time that degraded and treated black women badly.
Right, and it still does. I mean, we're going to move on and talk about some kind of black feminism that we have. But, like, I mean, I'm not, look, this isn't the type of show where we're like, oh my God, let's gossip about Little Kim. Now let's back.
Yeah, like
The truth is, like, I still see her as a woman of color and an artist. And while lots of her rap lyrics, she's probably going to question them as her child grows up, you know.
yeah, like
They you
I
know,
won't.
mom
Yeah,
say that.
like
But I still, I guess from my perspective, still honor her as an artist, honor her as a rap performer who was very vocal about sex and sexuality.
when
We all
women
know
work.
that Black women just aren't allowed to say anything. And I know those messages were controlled. You know what I mean? I still think
Yeah,
there's value added to music and rap in the early 2000s and 90s. So I guess I hope that her transition or transformation is not is not motivated by kind of a self hatred. You know,
you know, like
I hope she's just rich and has too much money and too much time.
yeah, like and to be
I hope it's
fair,
not actually
yeah.
looks at her and doesn't love herself.
Yeah,
Because
I really hope. Like, but unfortunately, this is what gets me because I remember reading an article about her, and it was partially an interview, and there were things in it that she said that concerned me about her self-image. And I remember even being younger, reading it, going, it doesn't sound like there's something in that subtext doesn't sound good to me. But and again, I know she's had some serious hard times. I don't judge her for that. I grew up actually really liking her music. Were there female rappers who are better? Yes, but I appreciated the aesthetic of who she was, and she did make it. Because before it was like female rappers had to be so serious and they couldn't be sexual, and people like her made it okay, but and us to talk as grungy as the men talked, and that was fine. But I worry, yeah, that this is like I don't like myself. Though I will give her this, she has corrected some of the bad plastic surgery she had before, which was getting strange. And at least that is a little better. But maybe that's what she's doing. Maybe she's trying to fix some of the not great surgery she had before. Maybe. I don't know. I'm hoping that's more what it is than her just, hoping that she's grown and gotten to a better place. Like, because I don't wish any bad on her. I hope she's, she's had it hard enough without, without not having some deep self-love, and I hope that is what she has, is some real self-love for herself. And if not, I hope she finds it.
Agreed. All right. Well, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Little Kim, we love you. Just be careful.
Please.
Just be careful. So last weekend, speaking of women rappers, last weekend I saw Barbershop, the movie, and
did you like it?
So I left early.
Was that purpose?
I think it's a summer. Yeah, I was a little bored. It was just very predictable. It was cute. I was really excited actually to see the cast, and it's always fun to think about Ice Cube's start and what the work he's doing now. And
I know he's so family friendly now. I love how family
his lineup is so perfect.
Exactly. I love thinking about 30 years ago. This is the guy who was like, "Fuck the police," and he's family friendly, and I love it. I just love that you could change over time. It's great.
Yeah. So it was cute, and I think I had higher expectations, but I ended up leaving early, and I'm sure I could probably guess the plot. So if you ever see it, I'm gonna guess the plot. I mean the ending, and if it's right, you tell me later on. So the whole premise of the Barbershop is that now there's gang violence in the neighborhood, and Ice Cube's son is getting involved with this alleged gang violence, and so then they create this community event, this marathon barber thing, where they're giving away free cuts to bring together the community. I won't say too much in case spoilers, but my prediction of the end is that So they're going to have some sort of, first of all, there's going to be some sort of scuffle with the youth between, you know, gang members, and the son is going to get caught up in that. Then there's going to be some sort of like dramatic resolution and possibly block party. that's how I think it's going to end.
I feel like if it doesn't end,
it's very
Marvin Gaye's "Get On Up," it's just you know.
It's gonna, yeah. There'll be a music number at the end because the number of music artists that are in the thing. You know, it was cute.
Yeah,
I wanted it to be. We can talk about it later, but I left, so that's all I have to say.
Like it didn't keep me in my seat long enough.
But it was interesting to see Nicki Minaj on screen with Eve, kind of, you know, the former kind of it girl rapper with the current it girl rapper. So that was cute.
It's fun because these are two rappers you can't even really compare because they're so different style-wise. Like, so it's like I wonder if there was any, because obviously she's had problems with other people before. It's like when she did American Idol and then did the Lil Kim thing, and she keeps having problems with other female performers, but I haven't heard anything bad about this movie, and I don't know if because Ice Cube runs a tight ship or they legitimately got on well. I hope they got on well. I hate hearing that, you know, catty things like that. But it's just funny because they're such different style-wise, like rappers. They're so different.
Okay, so that's that. Moving on. So I took some time today and I did watch Beyonce's Lemonade. Yeah, and there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot that we could talk about there, but I don't want to talk about all of it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you and I were speaking earlier, and then after we finished our meeting, this like internet thing happened where Azealia Banks, the rapper Azealia Banks, essentially started throwing a lot of shade on Twitter about Beyonce, which I actually think is really, really interesting. So like, yeah, I think it's really interesting. So I guess first what I'll say is, you know, I'm not, you know, I can't claim to be in the Bayhive or the Beehive. I think Beyonce is interesting if you look at the kind of marathon of her career, not necessarily the sprint. And so thinking about her starting as a very young artist, a pop artist, whose songs, you know, I took some notes on Lemonade, and so I took notes on words that I heard in Lemonade, right? And then I made a quick like list of words that essentially summarized Beyonce for me in many ways. And obviously there's a lot of breadth to her full body of work. But let's not kid ourselves that, you know, she was like, you know, I don't think you're ready for this jelly, like bootylicious, check on it, get me bodied.
Check on it. Well, to be fair, I'm sure check on it was contractual obligation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if it was a contractual obligation. This is the persona that she was putting out in the world. And this is what some of the reasons that I was not that interested in Beyonce beyond, you know, one or two songs. But so like, let me finish. So, Get Me Body, Bills, that wonderful song Bugaboo. And then we kind of move on to like to Upgrade You, which is a very classics ballad, like Let Me Upgrade. And then don't forget her wonderful hit. Don't let me forget the wonderful hit Video Phone. So, you know what I mean? That's kind of like, oh boy, you're being silly. For me, that's where, you know, that's a nice summary of Beyonce. Obviously, she has more than that, but for me, right, as someone who's just was not that interested. Now, Lemonade, I made a list of words that came up in Lemonade, and so this is where it gets interesting. Looking at her as a changing artist who grows over time. You know, we heard words like intuition and denial and apathy and emptiness. There, you know, she talks a lot about like the perfect woman and why can't you see me? Everyone else can. There's a line where she says there are these poetry like moments between the songs and within the songs. And so there's a moment where she says, "Your mother is a woman, and women like her cannot be contained." You hear words like menses and uterus and orgasm, words like God and prayer and nipple and worship. And there's a line where she talks about, I ask him to look me in the eye when I come home. Obviously, play on words there. And then she talks a lot about breaking curses and like generational love. So I mean, that's very far.
I don't know. She's had a serious evolution. I don't know. I feel like especially in the last couple years, we're seeing more of her than she's ever shown us before. Like she's always had a very controlled image and a very controlled career. And this is the first that I feel like she in some way is showing like the nakedness of herself. And I do appreciate that as, as a consumer, like as someone listening to her music, like again, like you, I'm not a huge, like, I haven't bought one of her albums since Crazy in Love. So I listen to it when it comes on, but I also spent a long time being a very top 40 kind of person. So like, I do like a lot of her music, and I enjoy a lot of music because it's good to dance to. But yeah, I'm definitely not like a beehiver or anything such thing. I'm not that hardcore into her.
Right.
I like her. I don't love her.
Right. So I mean, it's really. I mean, and I think there have been hints of this direction. First of all, you can only be an artist who's kind of this like perfect princess. Sorry, for so long before you're either gonna like just like kill yourself or just like I mean it's that kind of princess archetype is too much to carry because you'll never
I think we've seen people carrying it break.
Yeah, of course, because you'll not, to be honest with you, I'm sure at some point she has broke or been broken. But I mean, you can never be the perfect woman, wife, daughter, sister. Like those things are just, it doesn't exist
they do not.
In the real world. And so anyway, that was kind of my take. There's a really wonderful artist whose poetry is very prominent in the album. I think her name is pronounced Warsan Shire.
I've heard of her.
Yeah, so she's been really big on the internet, and her poetry, this is National Poetry Month. So if there's anything to really talk about this album for me, it's the poetry and the lyricism between it. And so then I was thinking about, okay, why does this even matter? Like, who cares? And then, Shayna, this came to me. So I think that this new album, Lemonade, essentially is the more colorful, more stylish, certainly, really more elaborate version, like millennial version of The Color Purple. So just hear me out though.
Going through the decades here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lemonade essentially is kind of our Color Purple, right? Because the Color Purple takes on racism and sexism, like the disruption of traditional gender roles. There's strong elements of sisterhood, right? So, and then we have these women, Celie and Nettie,
and sexual freedom and
freedom. Then these relationships between women like Celie, Nettie, and Suge Avery, right? And those are all definitely present themselves in this Lemonade, where it's like sister friendship, motherhood, being a wife, being a sexual object, all of that comes into play. Hold on, I have a few more I just want to mention. There's this kind of epistolary sense to it because there are this is poetry, there are performances, there are people talking like in the streets. So I really think and obviously Beyonce is from the South. The Color Purple really takes on racism in the Southern United States in the 1930s, right? So I mean, it's a very colorful Color Purple in many ways.
I can see that. Like, I see, and it's funny. I've heard, like, though I haven't got a chance to hear, and I probably will soon. But the reviews I've seen of it are so good. It sucks that it's right now being covered up with all the crap or like other people are spewing. But here's one thing I just kind of just realized.
Yeah.
This album, and I'm gonna get emotional. This album probably, and with the timing it came out, is probably the biggest honor someone that we lost like Prince could ever receive, because this is an artist doing what he always said they should do. Like, albums are important. The whole piece of the art, like not just one song, you're not selling one single, is part of a bigger whole that tells a bigger story. Right. And that's what an album's supposed to do. It's supposed to have a theme, a story, an arc that you delve into in that one sitting. And I would say, I almost want to say, I'm sure he would have appreciated the artistry of it. Whether he likes songs or not, I couldn't say, but that he would have appreciated the artistry of the attempt to make something like this.
Right. No, I definitely, I mean, Prince, obviously, we're going to do a show on Prince, so we don't want to
go too much, but it's just because that I realized, like, as you were saying, I'm like, man, this sounds like the things that he would have, like, he was always speaking about, and I mean, the importance of artistry and the wholeness of albums and not selling it off in singles.
Right, and he's a huge supporter. I say is, but I think even his legacy will remain a huge supporter of women artists.
Yes.
Kind of pushing the boundaries. So
nobody loved women like Prince.
Exactly. So let me talk quickly about this Azalea Banks situation. So apparently, Azalea is an African-American rapper.
Yes, she is.
I actually wasn't that familiar with her work, but
I am.
I took a peek through her videos, kind of in preparation for today. So Azalea Banks essentially said, no, not essentially, this is what she said on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
She said the Ocean tribute was cute, very cute, but you were just trying to be America's most convincing white woman. What happened? And then she calls Beyonce a thief with no ideas of her own, wanting to speak with absolutely nothing to say.
Right.
And so, hold on, there's a few more that I think are really interesting. She says this, and I'll screen share it with you so that you can see. And we'll post the link on the podcast show notes. She says, okay, so she says, this heartbroken Black female narrative you keep trying to push is the antithesis of what feminism is. You've been singing about this nigga for years and he's still playing you. That's not strength, that's stupidity. You keep crying over a man and perpetrating that sad Black female suffering, and it's not good for what we're trying to accomplish out here. Last one. I've been pumping African traditional religions, witchcraft for a long time. Emphasis on long, all caps. She was just singing Jesus Say Yes. So I mean, Azalea essentially. I'm really not trying to say what I think about Azalea Banks right now. I'm trying real hard not to say what I think about it. You don't have to say that, but I mean, the reason I raise it is not because I'm interested in kind of a beef between Azalea and Beyonce. It's because I'm just saying the evolution of Beyonce. We're kind of, Jim Gaffigan has this piece where he talks about how we treat pretty people really special. You know what I mean? Like if you're really,
if you're attractive, you totally get treated better.
Oh my God, you're attractive and you can brush your teeth.
I know, like
overdo it with people who are really attractive or really rich. We're like, oh my gosh, you know how to speak, and you're attractive. You know what I mean?
You have so much going for you because you're attractive and you can do other things.
Right, exactly. So I think, I did some research on Azalea Banks, and although she's not one of my favorite rappers per se, and I'm big on rap and lyricism as a writer and performer, but I will say there's something interesting about Azalea is because Azalea always kind of came out as this alternative girl.
Yeah, no, that's true.
If you look at her videos, there's one where she's like Medusa and she has like this blue robot.
I would like her. I want to like her. I wanted to like her from the beginning, but the stuff that comes out her mouth when she's not actually rapping is sometimes too much.
But this is interesting though, because she's always been that from the beginning.
No, she's not
an artist she wasn't a Disney princess. She made a video that's essentially like essentially Disney on drugs, where it's like her lips are her eyes, and there's like colors, and there's water, like fighting the police, and there's
like I would love if someone like her was in the forefront of the rap, but here that other part though.
Yeah. So I mean, I think what and I think it's interesting because I think for feminism for Black women, it's more complicated than being like, we're all in this together. You know,
like,
and skin privilege and where an artist starts actually is really important. So Azalea has started bold from the beginning, and she's open about being a witch. She's open about being bisexual. She's open about.
She's one of those people that gets me though, because she's one of those people who says she's bisexual, and that's cool, but she says like dirty shit about gay people. Like
well, I mean, I think it's okay. But the reason if Azalea Banks were to be our superhero in any of this is that she's an example of a woman of color who is not a prototype. I mean, this
is true. Well, in some respects,
she can be her complex self, whether we like it or not. And Beyonce didn't have that privilege, to be honest with you, kind of being managed and controlled by her parents.
Yeah.
She had to be this one particular thing. And so, I mean, I can kind of feel Azalea, because she's like, look, some of us out here, we've been known about voodoo and witchcraft and like looking at the world and alternative things other than kind of this Judeo-Christian framework. You know, a lot of us have been out here angry at a lot of us been out here like trying hard, and we get penalized for it. But we're kind of like, oh my God, Beyonce, and you can think.
And I understand that, but I don't want to fault her for having like a change in social like I don't think that helps the narrative either.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue. Yeah. And I feel like they both represent two different sides of the same spectrum. Yeah. Like where Azalea kind of sits in the strength of Black women that we've always been taught that we had. Like, we are these extraordinarily strong women because we've gone through so much and over generations endured so hard. But the only problem with that is that the strength of Black women is a blessing and a curse, because we're always expected to be strong, and we aren't allowed to be vulnerable as much as we would like to be able to be. Yeah. It makes it hard for us to be vulnerable. So I don't like, so that bothers me. I'm like, no, being vulnerable doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you're human. So allowing for that, and gotta say, like we talked about this before, I feel like Azalea, like some other people, are treating these songs like they are biographical, and we don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, an artist can write about whatever they want to write about. It doesn't necessarily have to be from your diary. That's
whether it holds some sort of personal truth for them, that's for them to, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm comfortable saying that, you know, in many ways, like I wish I had the boldness and the audacity of Azalea Banks to be like, essentially, F all of you.
Yeah, like
I'm complicated, I'm smart, I'm in your face. Might not like me, but this is who I am. But I also, yet I also respect the ability as women of color and as women to evolve and change. And maybe say, okay, these roles that I thought that I knew perfectly, maybe I don't know everything I need to know about. And like, maybe no matter how much money I have, how much weave I have, how like great my partner or my man or my woman is, like I still have to like open my mouth and like stand up for myself in a world that wants me to be silent, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I don't know what's happened to Beyonce in her personal life or in her relationships, but I think she has realized that the things that protect her within capitalism and allow her to be so rich will never protect her from the fact that she is still a woman and has to deal with things that women have to deal with.
Exactly.
And that's dope to me.
And
because we all have to
see her growth. Like
the poor woman on the bus has to learn that, and the rich woman
exactly.
has to learn that.
There is a commonality between us as women, and it's good to know that, that over time that now her music is reflecting that, and I like that. There's nothing I like more than seeing an artist grow in a good way. Yeah. Like, one of my favorite bands broke up some years ago and they got back together, and when they got back together, the album they released, I loved it so much, and I was so happy because it showed such a good progression of who they were as artists and who they had become during the time they were apart, and I was like, yay! And they also did something like this where they did like a whole visual art piece that went with it, and I was like, yay! And I remember being on pins and needles every time the next video came out, and I was like, yes, I can't wait. Mm-hmm. But I like seeing artistic growth, because if art doesn't grow with you, like, as an artist, it has to grow. If it doesn't grow, it becomes stagnant, and then it's no longer art. Like, there's a lot of music in the world, not all of it's art. And when like, if you just want a top 40 hit, anybody can make a top 40 hit. There are graveyards full of one-hit wonders type thing.
Graveyards.
Everybody, well, graveyards of music, filled with like one-hit wonders who made it to the top 40, but after that they couldn't follow it up because they didn't have any artistic growth, because they just tried to rehash the same hit single. That happened to many people. So,
right. So there we have it.
I like that. Like, whatever. It's
yeah.
I just wish Azalea would just be a little nicer to people occasionally. Like, I get that she's in her face. Like, I like parts of her. Like, there were parts of her I really like, but then there are parts where I can't vibe with, and that's what I hate. Because I want to like her. I want to like her.
You just committed to saying that we're into wanting, there to be room to grow. She's 24. Come on.
Yeah, well, no, it's just because I just wish, like, I want you to later go and Google some of the things she said in the past.
No, I did. Actually, I did.
Yeah, like, that's what gets me. It's like, oh my God, why?
But look at what Beyonce was putting out at 24. Sorry.
Well, no. I'm not saying this is like, look, I know she had some shitty music.
You had some,
and that had no real artistic content. No, I own that. Like, yeah, whatever.
Let's check in about 10 years when Azalea turns 34. And
part of me still kind of expects her to have the same kind of vitriol going on.
But let's be kinder to our artist sistren, because like I would never have guessed that Beyonce
would make something like this,
would say the word menses. Sorry, I just never would have expected her to.
You're right. The same person who, saying baby boy, same person who's saying, like,
Shayna, to be honest.
No, I get it. But you know what?
For writing her off.
Yeah, if you really think about it, if you really listen really carefully to her albums over time, you could see little hints of it coming out. But it wasn't until like maybe these last two albums where she just like kind of took it all off. It was just like, hey, look at me. And I appreciate that she wants to work that hard and really make art like that. And I appreciate that there are more artists like that are popping up, and more artists are wanting to be like that. Like, wanting to give us quality, something that says something, that shows something, and not just something that's going to sell on iTunes. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, she's a capitalist, so I'm not letting her off all my hooks.
Well, no, like, she still has a business to run, and
she's worth like $600 million.
Her and Jay-Z combined are the richest couple in the music industry.
I'm broke. Okay, we have to stop. We are at time. We didn't even get to talk about Alien 420 today, but
it's the anniversary.
Today is the anniversary of Alien, the movie. Maybe we can squeeze in another time, unless you can do it quickly.
No. How quick?
Like a minute.
Yeah, I could do it in a minute.
Alien Day.
It's Alien Day, so named after the the moon planet where they found the xenomorphs. As we know, very original Aliens came out in 1979, starring Sigourney Weaver. We were introduced to the xenomorphs in probably the most creative alien creative alien design we had ever seen up until that time. Up until that time, aliens were all just long, skinny with big eyes, and this thing was scary, and it legitimately scares us, and it still scares us now. Mostly because practical effects are key in this. Those xenomorphs are in that screen. They are hovering over. They're really there. Whether they're puppets or not, they are really there, and that's what helps drive that scare factor. And it's amazing that even after so much time, these movies still scare the bejesus out of me. Face huggers live in my dreams. Thank you, aliens, for scaring my childhood.
I'm scared.
And thanks, Mom, for letting me watch that movie.
Yeah, I mean, that image of the alien is still so frightening and so disgusting.
Oh.
But I don't
yeah,
know.
when that sucker popped out of Brad Dourif's chest, that was too much.
Yeah, so we're just celebrating Alien, and I think the world would be a different and better place if we knew that aliens existed, because then maybe we'd realize that instead of worrying about the transgender person in the stall next to you, we'd actually be worrying about the aliens.
Yeah, I'm saying that would be the real fear.
I mean,
maybe we need some kind of common enemy like that for mankind to rally together.
Although I do have visions of E.T. on the front of the bike all wrapped up, and I'm like, oh, E.T.
You know what? I didn't like E.T. I thought he was frightening.
Oh no, I love E.T. I think it's the scene where he's in the closet with the toys.
I think I liked it up until I was about 8 years old, and then I couldn't stand E.T. anymore for some reason. I think we just watched it too much.
Oh boy. All right, Shayna, we're going to do a show about our favorite and non-favorite aliens at a later date. I just want to thank our live viewers as well as our podcast listeners. Thank you for listening to The Geek and the Scribe. This is a cultural commentary show where we discuss pop culture, media, geekdom, fandom, lots of things, but all through the lenses of gender, race, and identity. Thank you so much for joining us. Please listen to us and download us on iTunes, subscribe, leave comments so that we can increase our ratings and share these conversations with others. Again, thank you for listening to The Geek and the Scribe.